if you're part of the spiritual community, if you're on the spiritual path, if you're thinking about going onto the spiritual path and you've been trolling over the internet and social media, you will have come across many posts that are talking about spiritual attacks. And so in this video, we are going to discuss how to combat spiritual attacks, what to be looking out for, how to safeguard yourself. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, and welcome to Oak Lore Duir. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Claire Attio. For those that are returning subscribers, thank you for your continued support. Okay, so combating spiritual attacks. So I think the first thing that we need to tackle is get an understanding of what a spiritual attack is. And a spiritual attack, my opinion of a spiritual attack, and I say that because we will all have differing beliefs, ideas, experiences, and it's terribly important to use your discernment. That is the biggest part of the spiritual journey, is going inwards and using our own discernment, learning to test the temperature of the waters, as it were, for what is right and what resonates with us. So my interpretation, my beliefs around spiritual attacks is that it's just energy, but it's energy that is resonating at a lower vibration than what I am, than what I want to resonate at. And the simplest form of this, I can remember when I first started out on my spiritual journey, and I can remember, and it was interesting kind of preparing for this video, because I did chuckle to myself, because I can remember being, I don't know, a year into my spiritual journey and kind of going to battle with somebody over spiritual attacks, and they were very much into the whole devil and evil terminology, which really didn't resonate with me. I'm very much looking at it from a perspective of energy. So that was the first thing. And the second thing is in my newness of being on the spiritual journey, I was naive. I was very naive in the sense that and it's interesting, I wasn't wrong, but I wasn't right. She wasn't wrong, but she wasn't right. And I think this is where we need to have, and as part of the journey is that learning to be able to sit back and go, okay, let me actively listen to what this person has to say. It may not resonate with me now, it may not resonate with me ever, or it may not resonate with me for where I am, but it will in the future. And that is what's going on here. That's what has kind of come up, and that is why I chuckled, because I was very much of the belief that where you brought light, the darkness doesn't exist. And I'm not wrong in that belief. When you think about it, it's energy. When you think about a room where there is no light in the evening, and you put the light on, or you put a lamp on, and I've said this before, there are shadows lurking in the darkness still, but where the source of the light is, there is no darkness. And if you illuminate the whole room, there is no shadow. And so those darker energies, those heavier energies, those negative energies, they have no place, they have no space, and so they cannot exist in that illuminated space. And this is why spiritual attacks is really kind of come on the radar and is really expedited, and you see it everywhere at the moment. One, yes, okay, spirituality has become trendy, and you can attribute it to that. But the other aspect that we really need to take on board is the fact that humanity, the planet, is raising its vibrations. It is anchoring more light through us onto the planet. And so there is less space for those darker energies to exist. And so they are trying to hold on for dear life. They are, at the end of the day, they exist. And so they're wanting to continue their existence. And so over the time of the ascension process, it's really come to my knowledge, and I've had to change my mindset over the fact that it's not just about bringing in the light. There are certain aspects and certain things that we actually need to do to combat these energies. And if you follow me, you will know that I very often use the phrase new levels, new devils. And what I mean by that is that the higher your consciousness goes, the higher your vibration becomes, and the more light you are pulling down through you and illuminating within you, there is less space within you for those darker aspects to exist. And it's really important to understand this is the connection between healing. When we have a wound, when we are harboring a negative energy, a negative belief, a negative value about ourselves, that is creating a shadow space within us, which is why we call it shadow work, dark night of the soul, whichever terminology you like to use. It's the shadows within us. It's the unhealed aspects of us. And then when you take it up a step further and you start calling back in aspects of your soul self because of past life experiences where it became fragmented, when you're calling those, you're creating a wholeness for yourself, which means that you can bring down more light because you are a greater expanse of your soul self being. One of the things that I want to say about that, and I had this experience, so I'll share it with you last week. I was calling back a soul self. I was doing an exercise where I was calling back a fragment of my soul self. And I went down into the underworld and I met, for all intents and purposes, as I believed at the time, a very young version of myself. And so we hugged and we kissed and we reunited, and there was tears, and it was a magical experience. It was truly wonderful. And I started asking a few questions when I was there, and I wasn't really getting any answers. And then on this exercise, we then had to bring this version of ourselves, this aspect of ourselves that we collected from time and space. We had to bring that back up to the surface, back up into our now reality. And as I did that, as I hit the now reality, and I brought my guide with me, a trusted guide that I have, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But as we hit the now reality, as I stepped into the now reality, my guide said, look into her eyes. And I will go back a little bit here. And that's why I stopped when I was thinking, because the other aspect of the exercise was to invite that aspect of the soul self into your physical body in the now reality. Sorry, that is why I stopped there. So we brought the aspect to the now reality, and then we were invited to incorporate that aspect of our soul selves into our physical bodies. And it was at that point my guide said, look into her eyes. And I looked into her eyes, and this is something that I always do, and this is something my guides have had me doing for some time now, is to look into the eyes and ask with my guide, okay, show me their soul self, show me their purity. And as I did, there was nothing there. There was nothing in the eyes to see. And so with that, I didn't invite her into my physical body. Now, that may sound really cruel and harsh because for all intents and purposes, it's a young version of myself. But I didn't invite her back into my body because there is more there to explore. I knew there was more there to explore. I wasn't sure whether it's because I'm still holding a fear that needs to be addressed and looked at, or, and this is the key point, or that version, that representation that was offered up to me was actually shapeshifter. Now I know which it was, which I've since done meditation and I know exactly what it was. What I actually did at that point was I asked my guide to take her back to where we met. And I sent her with love. I didn't send any fear. I didn't send any anger, discord. I sent her back with love. And with the intention that she heals herself. And there's two reasons for me doing that, because at the time I wasn't sure whether this was a aspect of myself that was hurt or whether this was an energy, an entity that is also hurt. And so by sending her back with love, with the intention that she heals, either way is a win. And this is what I mean when I say new levels, new devils. As we go through the journey, as we expand, as we bring more light and anchor more light through us, there is less space. And as more and more of us are doing this globally, there is less space for these darker energies, and they are fighting for their survival. But let's not diminish that. Do we want to be taking these dysfunctional, conflicting, aggressive energies into our new era, into our new world? Absolutely not. But can we embrace them with compassion and hold intentions that they too can heal themselves? They too can raise their vibrations. But we can hope. We can't become attached to that result because it's not part of our journey, but we can hope, we can hold space for them, we can hold that compassion, we can send loving energy. What they do with it is then up to them. And so as you're going through the journey, one way, that is one way of combating psychic attacks. Having great discernment and trusting and listening to your intuition, to your guides, to your team. Before I invite anything or anyone into my energetic field, whether that is within a meditation, whether that is within journeying, whether that is with any of the other modalities that I use when I'm connecting, I always now have the intention that I look into the soul of whatever is presenting itself in front of me. Sometimes doing shamanic work, it can be an animal. Sometimes it can be I'm talking with a tree. Sometimes I can be talking with a rock. Sometimes I can be talking with the plants. Sometimes I can be in a completely different universe and I'm talking to beings of which I have no idea, or some of them I do, but yeah, some can say it's our imagination, and that's fine, but we need to treat it as real. Would we invite these people into our home? Because our physical body, is a home. It's our physical, worldly home, and we need to make it into a sanctuary. We need to make it a safe place. We need to continue and look after its security. You wouldn't leave your physical 3D home without locking the door. You wouldn't be keeping the door open for anybody to walk in. We don't live in those times anymore, unfortunately. Wouldn't it be nice if we could do that? But we have to get real here. And we are in a space and a time and a place and a dimension where we need to safeguard our vessels, our homes. And so, one, I would actually say that. Two, sometimes psychic attacks can be really nafi. It's for those of you that speak Spanish, you'll get it. For those of you that don't, it's kind of a nonsensical word. It's a nafi. It's, you can walk into a room and you can feel negative energy coming towards you. Now, again, there can be two things going on here. You can kind of turn around, or you can when you get to a certain stage where you can actually just stand there and go, oh yeah, that's that person over there. You don't even have to look. But it's having, again, the discernment of knowing, okay, are they carrying an entity within them? Are they hosting? That's and I think this is another good distinction as well, because we can all be carrying a negative energy in us, especially whilst we're on our healing journey. We can all dip into that, and when we first start, we're kind of, most of us were living or are living from the negative aspects that we have all been learned and conditioned to believe are true and right and just, which actually is a load of biddlem. But we walk that path and we clear that out as we're on the spiritual journey, and we heal those aspects of ourselves. That is what walking towards the soul sovereignty is all about. So you could have negative aspects, you could feel that energy from them because they have their own ish that they're working through. But you could also have the aspect that they have become a host for something a little bit more sinister, something that is using who they are, using their standing in 3D society to track others that are working through the levels of ascension. Let's just put it that way. There is no hierarchy. There is no better or worse. It's just working through the levels of ascension. And so you have these people that are unknowingly hosting these negative energies, these sinister energies. And this takes us back to where I said at the beginning of the video, when in my naivety, it was just like, well, if you bring light to it, there is no darkness. I didn't comprehend. And what she was actually trying to explain to me, which I'm going to be honest, I was so unwilling to listen to at the time. What she was trying to explain to me was this negative entity that gets people to host itself. It gets people to be their hosts, so it can do the work and fulfill its contracts. Remember, when we're on the spiritual journey, we are fulfilling a contract that we made before we were physically reincarnated on this earth, and that works on both polarities. This is what keeps the balance. And I still don't agree with her with the evil, because I have to, hand on heart, say that the times I have been attacked by those entities, by that type of darkness, by that higher level of dark consciousness, do I call it consciousness? I'm not sure, but it's probably, I use that. I'm not really sure whether that's the right description. It is an energy. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. But the description wise, every time I have been attacked in especially the last 4 or 5 years, when I've been attacked by that type of entity, it has only served to help me grow, to help me expand, to supercharge my desire to move forward. And so we have to ask the question, are they evil? Is this evil, or is this a beautiful cosmic, divinely orchestrated way of getting us to actually embrace the different levels of consciousness, to understand energy, to understand quantum mechanics, and and it is, I mean, when you're going through it, you certainly don't think that. You kind of think, oh my God, get this monkey off my back. What do I need to do, spirit? And you go in and you do the work, and you find the aspects in yourself as to why it's irritating you, and or what it is that is, or who it is it's coming from. And there are times where I'm going to be honest, there are times where all the love and light in the world isn't going to get that monkey off your back, and you have to go into spiritual warrior mode and fight for your right to grow, to expand, to move forward. It's an interesting journey. It's something we're going to see much more, and I'm doing this video to help you understand what's going on, to stop you dropping into fear. Because when you're first on your journey, and when this first happens, and I know I did it in my 20s, when I was starting to open up in my 20s. When I was a kid, I was closed down intentionally by parents. They thought they were doing the right thing. When I was in my 20s and I started re-exploring this aspect of myself, there were incidences, there were energies or entities, whatever you want to call them, that came whooshing towards me. And I was like, and because I didn't have the knowledge, and I certainly wasn't within a circle where I could ask questions and gain the understanding, I just kind of, like, fear came in and I shut it down. I was like, whoa, and I allowed what I know now to be incidences from past life experiences to bring back that fear to me. And that kept me shut down for a huge amount of time. So that said, having that little bit of understanding, and we could do a series a whole series, we could do a whole workshop on what is the psychic attacks, what do they look like, where do they come from. But the key of this video is to give you some tools and some ideas of how to combat them. So one of the first ones, and I've already discussed it, is healing yourself, healing the aspects of yourself that don't function, healing the beliefs and the values that are within you that cause you dysfunction in your life. And you'll know what they are. You're an adult now. You know the aspects of yourself that cause discomfort, that cause arguments, the beliefs, the negative beliefs about yourself that have you playing small, that stop you from actually shining for the true luminous person that you are. Expanding that cosmic heart within you and expanding your soul self, allowing the world to see your soul self. Something we play small. Now, when I say allowing the world to see your soul self, you do need caution here. There are aspects that will come in from your spiritual journey that you need to keep to yourself. Now, and I say that because one of the things we can actually do to combat psychic attacks is to use and work with our spiritual team. They're there to protect us. We have a spiritual team to protect us. Of old, when I first started out, and when the fourth dimension was full of all the heavy treacle stuff of humanity's creation. And let's not forget that thoughts create things. And so these aspects, these energies, these entities have been created via our thoughts. They exist because of where we have been and what we have thought. But of old, when I first started out on this journey, when I was doing the spiritualism and the mediumship work, is you get yourself to that fifth dimensional realm where you can actually contact and talk with spirits. You can bring that information through, and it's a beautiful thing to do, where you can actually gain information and connect and channel and give information and evidence. And that's not diminish the importance of that, because it's very nice to give really hopeful messages, inspiring messages, but we need to back that up with the evidence first. And I always insist that when I am doing mediumship work and I am somebody, you know, something wants to give me a message, another is to collect 3 pieces of evidence first, so that the person that I'm talking with can confirm who that is. And there's no way of me having known that because I've only just met them. So we get that evidence before we give the messages. That is really important. Or it is for me. It's part of my journey. Sorry. It is for me. It gives me that level of authenticity. It ensures that I'm not just pulling something out the hat because I can intuitively feel what they need to know and the messages that would be helpful to them. And so it's important to me not to abuse my gift of intuition and to actually collect that evidence for them when I'm doing mediumship work. I lost where I was then. But yeah, so we were, sorry, I lost where I was. So we were talking about the 4D, walking through the 4th dimensional treacle to get to the 5th dimension. And lots and lots of people before me, many very talented, very deeply spiritual people, helped us. And this is why so many more people can open up to their spirituality, can connect with other entities, and can connect with spirit, and can travel the cosmos with greater ease than what was available to people that walked before us, because they're the ones that did the work. They're the ones that did lots and lots of magical work, clearing and cleaning and transmuting a lot of those energies. That makes it much easier for when I started opening up. I kind of just like went, and in that can also create a little bit of ish in people when they're still healing, because many of those people, and I say that because I remember working with a spiritualist who had been connecting and giving advice and messages and doing so much good light work for 30 plus years before I came onto the scene. And I remember being in one of her workshops, and we had to explain an incident that had occurred within the past week. And I know what had been happening 2-3 days previously to that was Archangel Michael, when I was going to bed at night, was pulling on my feet and was wanting to communicate with me. And of course, in my naivety, I actually said that to her, and she kind of bustled and puzzled, and she went, "No, that's not possible." And I moved on to the next, and I sat there and I thought, God, am I delusional? Is this, you know, is this? And because of where I was on my journey, I sat there and I really went inwards, and I really thought, oh God, am I being delusional? Am I trying to be something that I'm not? Am I making this up? And all those negative, self-deprecating thoughts that we all have, because of where I was on the scale of confidence, which was very little at that time. And so I wasn't trusting. I was trusting myself when I was on my own, but I wasn't trusting myself opening up and speaking about these things with other people. And we moved along the line and we did the workshop, and I have to say it was a phenomenal workshop, and that was it. But this incident sat with me and sat with me and sat with me, and it sat with me for a good few months. And I talked with spirit and I talked with my guides, and I kind of like, and I was like, what's going on? Why is this, and I didn't have that full understanding. And I must have at some point within those conversations with my guide said, I need to understand this. Please give me the understanding of this. And I think it must have been about 4 or 5 months later, this lady reached out to me, completely unsolicited, reached out to me, and she said, I have an apology to give you. And I said, oh, right, okay. And she said, I remember that incident. She said, and she talked about it, and she said, I couldn't believe that somebody that was just opening up to their spirituality could instantly connect to the ascended masters. She said, but I've since, she said, that was something that I'd always wanted to do. She said, I've since broken through that ceiling. There was a healing that was needed in me. My belief system was blocking me from doing that. They have always been around me, and I know that they have always been around you. I now know that they have always been around you. And that for me was supremely heartwarming, because it helped me with my confidence levels at the time, and to gain that deeper belief in myself and what was happening and what I was getting. But through those conversations, it also brought it about, and this is a key point. There was something, even though she'd been doing this monumental work and anchoring so much light and clearing so much ish from the planet and from the dimensions, a belief within her had kept a ceiling that she hadn't been able to break through until whatever time she broke through it and then contacted me again. She'd shifted that within herself and broke through that ceiling. And so it's really important to trust ourselves, but also sometimes have the discernment, which I lacked at that time, to keep it to yourself, not in an energy of shame, but in an energy of, we don't always know what others are going through. I'd obviously triggered her in that moment, which is why she was kind of like, no, because I triggered her. Unknowingly, unwittingly, I triggered her. As it was, she was such a beautiful soul. She was able to come back and apologize for that. And we were able to build a relationship from that. So keep that in mind. All of this is available to all of us. We're just in different places, different spaces, because of our life experiences, because of our soul experiences, because of our contracts, our cosmic contracts before creation. Some things will come onto one person's spectrum far quicker than it will on another, because for the one that hasn't come on, it's not important to them at that time. That piece of learning, that piece of connection doesn't play a big role in their contract. And this is why we say step away from coveting. And it's one of the commandments: do not covet. Do not allow jealousy. Do not look over your shoulder. Do not look beyond yonder. Keep focused on your own vessel. Keep focused on your own path. Is it interesting to see what other people are doing? Absolutely it is. And can you kind of go and on a personal level go and learn new things because you want to? Yes. When you get a nudge from spirit, go learn those things. They're part of your contract. That's why spirit's nudging you. That's the next stepping stone to becoming all that you are and having all the tools that you need to fulfill the contract, whatever the contract is. Sometimes there will be things that come onto your spectrum because it's a personal interest to you. And I say that with a little bit of reverence, because even when I've done that, it's kind of come into play somewhere along the line, somewhere along the journey. So listen to it. What makes your heart sing? Follow what makes your heart sing. Crystals are really good for transmuting negative energy coming your way. I love black obsidian. A lot of people don't like working with that because there is that, it is very much that duality, that yin and that yang. Black obsidian is a very reflective crystal. And so it kind of forces you into those, well, it doesn't force you. It quickens. It quickens the dark nights of the soul. Some people like to use black tourmaline, which does the same. It basically absorbs negative energy. So it keeps your energetic field clean and clear. Rituals, ceremony, prayer, intention, mindfulness, personal development and growth. All of these are aspects that build your protection. I'm not going to give you specifics. There are lots out there. The violet, I love using the violet flame. Saint Germain, I built a beautiful relationship with Saint Germain, and I use the violet flame. I use it within my own practice for my personal practice of cleaning, cleansing, healing. But I also use it when I'm working with clients, that when we are pulling out energies, heavy, dark energies, emotional aspects within somebody, or when we're clearing their system, is I have already, before we start that, part of my practice is to encircle them with the help of Saint Germain in the violet flame. And so anything that actually gets pulled from them, the only space for them to go is into the flame, and obviously the flame then transmutes them and it gets sent back to ether with love. Violet flame is amazing. Using ascended masters is amazing. Using other deities are amazing. Crystals are fantastic. Runes are really powerful, but again, don't force it. Allow the runes to choose, and it's the same with the crystals as well. Allow it to choose you. Allow the crystals, allow yourself to be drawn. We can go on and we can read all this information, and this is why when you are buying alchemical tools like crystals, like runes, like tarot cards, like oracle cards, because they can all bring protection in as well, let them choose you. See what you're naturally drawn to. I've I'm in contact with a lot of readers, and sometimes they use decks and I'm like, oh wow, that deck's beautiful and I love the messages coming through it. But when I've sat and I thought, I'm going to buy that set, I'm going to buy that set, I really like that, and then I've kind of taken the time and I've sat back and I'm like, and I'm sat there, I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to go and buy these. And what I always do is I do a meditation first. Is that set for me? Is that calling me? And this is where your discernment comes in. And this is why we shouldn't be looking over our shoulders. We shouldn't have any comparison mode program still running. We shouldn't have the competition. Those are the first things. Get rid of them out of your system. If you've got heavy healing trauma there to work through, but first get rid of the competition, the comparison, and the lack of confidence. I would say those are your three ones to focus on to begin with, and then deal with the other stuff. Work at it day. Those are what I recommend. Your guides may recommend something very different to you. They will or may recommend a different path. Follow the path that your guides are telling you, because they are the best for you. Trust yourselves. And if you watch my videos, that comes up every single time, and it's really annoying, and I know, but I'm going to say it anyway. Trust yourselves. Trust your connection. Trust you know what's best for you. Doesn't matter how much healing there's still there to do. Innately, your soul self will know what's best for you. and allow yourself to be guided by that. I'm just looking at my list here. So we have got, so yes, if you're working with clients, as I said, use what's ever needed. Clean and clear your energies before you start working with a client. When you're working with energy, that's really important. You don't want to bring anything in that you may have just gone and done the shopping, and you may have walked into a heavy energy field of somebody else who's struggling with depression, or and so yes, you can actually give a smile and help and give light to that, but a little bit of that may still be kind of tittering on your energetic field. So always clean your energies before you start work with a client. And then that again is by intention, by calling in your guides, calling upon whatever deities that you actually work with. I always smudge, part of the shamanic journey. I always smudge, and I differentiate. Sometimes I need, and I feel I need to add other things into that smudging ceremony, because there are lots of different herbs that you can actually use for smudging. My two main go-tos are white sage and Palo Santo. Those are my two main. But sometimes I feel pulled to adding some cedar or adding some lavender, or there's a whole host of things that you can actually add to it within that smudging ceremony. And it is nice to add that. And it is nice that when you are then having cleaned yourself, you then prepare your room and you smudge your room, which is my practice, to smudge the room and prepare the room for the client that's coming in. Is sometimes if I've just done myself with white sage, for example, and then I get the message, okay, add a little bit of lavender here, add a little bit of juniper. And then when that client comes in, and then you start to listen to their story, you go, oh, that's why I had to add the lavender. That's why I had to add the juniper. It allows spirit to work through you. They see everything. Be that vessel, be that channel. And you will find that your healing practices, if you are a practicing healer, you will be able to achieve so much more by just bringing those little bits in. Sometimes I get a client to hold a crystal, and sometimes I will allow them to choose from the bowl of crystals, and sometimes I will just innately, when I'm preparing the room, get the guidance that I need to pick up a certain crystal and put that on the bed in preparation. Those energies infuse the bed before that client even lies down. There are so many aspects to this. When you have finished working with the energies, again, clean the space and clean yourself. If you're doing clients, then do it in between the clients every single time. And I know I shouldn't, for many that are a skilled practitioner, they'll be listening to this and going, Claire, why are you saying that? There are a lot of people now that are doing energy healing that, because everything's been moving at such a fast pace, and because their gifts have opened up at such a fast pace, they haven't had the time to do this learning. They haven't had the time to take this on board and the importance of what this is. And sometimes, let's be honest, we can get a bit complacent. I remember in my nursing, when I was doing my nursing training, working with some very skilled nurses, but looking at them thinking, God, if I get that cynical, if I get that complacent, I don't want to be doing this job anymore. And it's the same when we're doing our spiritual work. Sometimes we can get a little bit complacent. We can get a little bit cynical about what we're doing. We can be in a place, in a space in our own lives that we're just going through the motions. And so, yeah, I do repeat these very basic routines to remind us all, myself included. I've done stuff and then I'm feeling a bit ill afterwards, and I'm thinking, and then I think, oh God, I forgot that. We all need the reminders. Crystals, smudging, deities, ascended masters, spiritual team, and that can be human, it can be extraterrestrial, it can be plants, it could be animals, it could be whatever it is for you. Trust it. Rituals, depending on what avenues of spirituality you are being drawn to. Is there a particular ritual that resonates and makes you and helps you to feel absolutely secure and helps you step into being the truest version, not the best version, the truest version of yourself? Is there a ritual that has you automatically just step into that energy, where you've got that heart expansion, where you've got that soul expansion, where your knowledge is just pouring forward? That's what's going to help you the most. If you're working with clients, that's what's going to help them the most. When you've finished, if you've worked with clients, or even at the end of the day and you've been doing heavy energy work on yourself, because this is not just about clients, when you finish the work, yes, smudge, but also shower. Water is beautiful. And set the intentions in the shower to clean your energetic field, to clear your energetic field, and to soothe you. I have a beautiful little ritual that I use that was given to me by spirit, and your rituals will come. I'm not sharing rituals with you because make them personal, make them yours. Your team, your experiences, your soul self knows what works for you the best, knows what is going to protect you the best, that is going to strengthen your energetic body. But in the shower, when I'm showering, obviously I do the usual wash bits, da 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 da, and then I turn up the temperature on the water, and I allow everything, I visualize everything pouring and washing out of me of that day. And then I turn the temperature right down. And I'm actually in a river. And in that river, I am in the arms and being hugged by Mother Mary. And that is just, it's freezing. You do kind of like, pretty cold. But we all know the benefits of ice baths. And it really does. It just clears everything. It just kind of it brings everything back to neutral. It's deeply, deeply relaxing. And in that physical, mental relaxation, I am strengthening my energetic body. So, finishing up, trust yourself. Go in, journey, meditate. Oh, before I forget, sorry, just one thing that I do want to bring up. Guided meditations. It doesn't matter who's doing them. If they feel off to you or you're feeling jittery, do not continue with it. I have noticed over the last years, and it goes back to the shape shifting that we were talking about earlier. I have noticed there are some meditations where I've kind of got 20 minutes into it because that day I fancy listening to a guided meditation. I've got 20 minutes into it, and then my soul self has had me sit bolt upright, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And within those meditations, there are negative sublingual messaging. Again, it comes down to your discernment. Use your discernment. Listen to what you're being guided to by your team. Listen to your intuition, your instinct, and those that you trust of your spiritual team. Those you will have at least one or two as you get more. You have like as you walk along the path, I sometimes, when I'm going in doing my gratitude, it's like it's like a sea of beings, and you're kind of like, whoa, okay. And it is your it's your personal spiritual army, and they're always there, but to begin with, you don't always see them. I know I didn't. I only seen a few and connected with a few when I first started out, and I focused on them. But as I've developed, as I've grown, I go in now and I just see this sea of beings that are there to support me. It's my army of spiritual warriors. So use your intuition, use your instinct, use your discernment. What is right for you? What you're actually feeling about this? And sometimes it can be some of these recordings have been from really spiritual people, and I'm just like, whoa. But we also have to remember that, okay, they may have recorded that, but then how many hands has that recording gone through before it's actually, one, produced and put out there, and two, then how many and what has actually listened to that? So at any point along that journey, something can get attached to it, and this is why it's important to listen to yourself and to safeguard yourself and to combat the spiritual attacks. As I said, the majority of spiritual attacks will be other beings, human beings, living their life, still needing to do the healing, and they're running programs. Sometimes your light will irritate their demons. That is the phrase that we actually use, and we don't mean anything by that. We don't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that there is darkness, heavy energy, negative energy within them that is yet unhealed. And if you walk in and you've been doing your healing, then your light is going to irritate that within them. It's not that they don't like you. It's not a personal thing, although it comes across like that. But you have irritated them completely on a subconscious level. You have irritated them. Don't shy away from doing that, because that instigates healing. That irritation instigates the healing within them. That gives an ignition, a breath of air to the spark. So don't shy away from doing that. And don't shy away from doing it to yourself as well. Don't go into that blame game. When you meet people or you get involved with people on your journey and it's a real shit show, excuse my language, but you kind of come out of it afterwards, go, well, what was that? And then it's very easy to sit there and go, why did I not listen to my intuition? You didn't listen to your intuition because in that not listening, there was a lesson. There was a lesson. So don't go into the blame game, either of self or others. Step away from that and step into, okay, what was there to learn? What did I learn? I think that's enough. We could go on forever. If you found this video helpful, then press that like button. That will help it get out to more people. If you've not yet subscribed, please subscribe. If you would like to contribute to help me continue making these videos, there are links in the description box below. The contributions are much appreciated. And I shall see you on the next one. You take care. Bye-bye.